Yeah, I don't.
All right, ZBA, we are live. We are recording. Phone lines are opened. Go for it.
Thank you, Matt, and welcome everybody to the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for April 22nd, 2025. We have some scheduled public hearings this evening, and I'm going to read the first one into the record. The applicant is Jerome Cangelosi at 77 Westlake Drive in Montauk, Suffolk, tax map number 300-28-3-54. Size and location is 16,130 square feet at 77 Westlake Drive, Lot 4, Block 151 in Montauk Beach Development Corp., subdivision number 6, filed May 6, 1927 in Montauk. The description is to allow a slate patio to remain within the jurisdiction of a freshwater wetland and within side yard setbacks. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the Town Code, and two variances are required for this application. Variances of 1.7 feet and 4.8 feet are needed from the 255-1110 of the East Hampton Town Code to allow the slate patio to remain 13.3 feet from the northern property line and 10.3 feet from the southern property line where 15 feet is required. The zoning district is B residence, X in the X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. Council, will you have a proper affidavit of service and posting?
We do.
Okay, thank you. This is, okay, thank you. Member,
We have Ditterfield visit. This is the posting. It was officially incorrectly posted. Next. This is a photo of the driveway as it exists today. There is documentation in the file how that driveway used to extend up into that grassy area. At some point in the past, that was changed. Next. This is just the neighbor to the left, which I believe would be south. Next. Now, this is the patio, and I missed getting the corner that we need, so I'll go to the next one. And this is the corner that is 10.2 feet from the side yard that requires one of the variances. You can see the fence in the distance. Next. Now I just went to the other end of the patio. I'm on the north side now, and that where that fence ends is next to the shower that's on the survey, and that's the other variance that's required for the setback, to meet the setback from the north side. And that may be it. Now, oh, this is a picture of there's a fence that used to be there. I know we have the latest survey shows it was to be removed, and I couldn't tell if it was there. I think it was already removed. And this fence right here is like a 4-foot fence that they say is there for the dog now to keep it, but that fence will also be going. I believe, but you can confirm that. And I think that's it then. And the trees are the property line.
thank you. Do we have the agent to the applicant, or Thomas, how are you?
Thomas Crouch from Wayland Filer here for the applicant. Yes, that fence that's there is just temporarily so their dog has a place to go outside. The fence that was along the northern property line has been removed. So basically the applicant installed this patio in 2016. He had a deck that was rotting, and so he hired a contractor to remove the deck and put in the patio. And about that same time is when they shortened the driveway. Last year, he went to legalize the patio and get an updated CO. He filed an NRSP application and worked with Morgan. After consulting with Morgan, we removed that fence along the northern property line. It was on the April 8th agenda to be handled administratively, but Morgan noticed that because the patio was attached to the house, it's a 15-foot setback instead of 10. So there's little to no impact to the neighbors. Both neighbors are screened by mature vegetation. The neighbor to the south used to have the driveway there, and I included a 2013 GIS aerial that shows a car parked very close to the property line. So the fact that it's pushed back 10 feet and it's patio to me is less impactful. Obviously the applicant installed this patio, so we're responsible for needing the variances, but it is an odd shaped lot. It's a triangular shaped lot that it's a pretty regular, like it's not a I wouldn't say a very large patio. It's kind of a normal shape and size. It's just, you know, the shape of the lot is part of the reason that we're here. So my clients are here. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions about it, but it's pretty simple request.
Anybody have any questions?
No, there's a lot of grass. I don't know if we want to talk about clearing or.
I have a question. How are you? Good evening. The property card, the town's property card notes in 2017, it was noted that the new patio wasn't conforming. So could you just, and I read your narrative, but like, could you just bring us up to speed a little bit on, this is long time non-conforming?
Right. I believe my client can speak to this more, is that he started the process in 2017 and then had some health issues, and just kind of, you know, time goes by, COVID happened, and, you know, they're here now because they're trying to update their CO.
Okay. And then also I'm looking from the existing conditions memo, and it has the survey from 2013. And I guess that's when the driveway wrapped around, but that deck was really significantly smaller and it more than met setbacks on both sides. So I just, you know, are there other options that they could have had in a large deck and still met side yard setbacks?
I mean, I believe when they removed the deck, they probably could have put in a slightly larger deck that didn't meet setbacks, but that's just, I think they hired a contractor and put in the patio because they, you know, wanted to make use of the space and weren't aware that they were, you know, too close.
Okay.
And just state your name.
Jerome Cangelosi?
Okay, can you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely,
Thank
yes.
you.
When we took down the deck, if you've seen the yard, and I know a couple of the members have, it's got a nice slope in the backyard. It's a nice piece of property. And when I looked at it and was trying to design the new space, I'm no architect or anything else, but I thought to put another big deck there, which really blocks off would have blocked off the nice backyard that we had. I thought going to a patio would have less impact, and we were going to plant grass and shrubs to the entire yard. We were doing the whole house over. So we planted 48 trees and shrubs. I know because I just fed them all. But that was the idea. We were trying to get away from the deck to give it a more open feeling and just allow us to use it and enjoy the view a bit.
Okay.
Make sense?
Thank you, Mr. Cangelosi.
So you wind up with a corner of the deck in two places, just a corner that's now requiring a variance, right?
Yes.
So that's it. So you could have chamfered the corner, I suppose, and done it, but you weren't aware of it. That's what you're saying.
I have to be honest, the contractor that we used for the masonry work, he said, oh, if we put the cement pavers in sand, you don't have to worry about anything because it's removable.
Yeah.
On the south side, there the driveway was within a foot or two of my neighbor's fence and then their shrubbery. They've got about 15-foot hedges there. So I thought we were okay leaving approximately 10 feet. If I would have known, I probably would have changed the shape there. And then on the north side, that abuts my neighbor's property. It's his driveway, which is dug into the property because of the slope. And I planted trees to shield that. So neither one of those are visually seen by our neighbors, you know. But yeah, that was my fault, and I didn't know the restriction.
Thank you. Any other questions?
No. Let's hear
Thank
from
you.
Morgan.
Thank you. Thomas, anything?
Morgan.
Morgan, I'm sorry.
I have nothing to add.
Oh, I'll go to Morgan, but yes, Morgan, come
may
on.
have something.
Good evening, Board. Morgan Slater for the Planning Department.
Morgan, do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. I think a lot of it has been covered. The patio does require an NRSP because it's within 150 feet of the wetland, but it does meet the minimum 100-foot setback. The Planning Department hasn't identified any substantial environmental impacts from the structure since it does meet setbacks. It's already been discussed, the shape of the property is pretty unique with regard to the requested dimensional variances. And the planning department doesn't really have much input on the dimensional variances themselves. I just wanted to affirm that there aren't really environmental impacts expected because of the NRSP request.
Thank you. Any questions for Morgan?
Yeah, the clearing, I know the clearing on the 2013 survey was
Yeah.
also very overcleared, as it still is today. Do you have any recommendations, since it's an NRSP, to have some revegetation done?
It is pre-existing non-conforming clearing.
Is it 100%?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's based on our GIS database that we have for that. So there's necessarily no requirement for them to come into conformance. Again, the patio is pretty minimal impacts on the wetland as it is now.
Thank you.
All right.
One question for you, Morgan. Why is the patio considered a part of the property and not an accessory?
Because it is attached to the principal structure. So if there was I think the building department's policy is 5 feet. If it was 5 foot away from the principal structure, then it would be considered an accessory.
Even though they're pavers set in sand on the ground?
I can't speak to the composition of the construction of it, but just since it is associated with the principal structure and there's no separation there, it has to meet the principal structure setbacks for side yard. If there was a separation there, it would conform with accessory structure, but it's not.
So yeah, it requires property lines.
It does, yeah, the principal structure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Nope.
Thank you. We'll go to the public now. Is there anybody in the public who would like to speak? No. How are you? You announce yourself
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Martha Reichert,
and your address.
85 Westlake Drive, Montauk, New York.
Do you swear affirm?
I'm an attorney.
Oh, you're an attorney. Thank you.
My family has owned the adjacent property since the early 1960s. I want to say that we have no objection to any of the variances that are being sought. The Cangelosis have been wonderful neighbors since they purchased the property. The change from the deck to the patio has made no difference. They've improved the property, and I can also attest to the pre-existing non-conforming clearing because my grandfather subdivided the properties, resulting in the odd shape you see today. But I do want to say that I support the variances and have no objections to them.
Thank you. Anybody else? Is there anybody online?
You have 0 calls on the line. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thomas, do you have any?
I don't have anything else unless you have questions. So
Okay,
thanks for the time.
thank you.
Thanks.
You have a motion?
Okay, so for 77 Westlake Drive, Jerome Cangelosi at 77 Westlake Drive, tax map 300-28-3-54. Make a motion to close the public hearing and the public record.
Thank you.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Concur. Next, we have 46 Hampton Lane LLC and William T. Russell at 46 and 50 Hampton Lane. I'm against the Suffolk tax map number 300-174-7-13 and 14. The size and location is 12,000 square feet. Combined total at 46 and 50 Hampton Lane, Beach Hampton, Section 1, Block 4, lots 11 through 13 and 14 through 16 in Amagansett. The description is the installation of a subsurface drainage to control surface runoff on 2 adjoining properties containing and located within jurisdiction of freshwater wetlands. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 and a variance from 255-430 minimum wetland setbacks of the town code, and any other relief necessary. A 75-foot variance is required to install the drainage structures as close as 25 feet from wetlands where 100-foot setback is required for structures. The zoning district is B residence, AE flood zone, elevation 10, and the secret class is type 2. Council, do we have proper affidavit of service and posting?
Yes, we do.
Thank you. And this is Member
Mine.
Mearing.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. So as you know, these are two properties side by side on the west side of Hampton Lane. Just to make sure everyone knows, 46 is the more northern property, closer to Central, and then 50 is just contiguous to the south of it. I didn't take a lot of photos at all of the house itself because it's not really in play here, so I tried to keep it brief. So this is the posting on the front, properly posted on the front of 46. Next slide. And these are, as you know, small lots. And then I also shot the posting, proper posting on the front of 50 in the driveway. Next slide. I just took one shot. I think most people are familiar. This is one of the very narrow dirt roads in the more eastern part of Beach Hampton. That's just looking north to Central Avenue. Next slide. Okay, so these I'm not sure if these might have gotten a little out of order because I had a little technical difficulty. I've just gone right to the rear of 46 and just shown the proximity of the rear of 46 to the wetlands. And those wetlands, I only have a piece of them in this photo, basically cover a good portion of this. I guess this is the western side or the rear lot line of the property. I don't know if I don't think they're all on this property. I think they're shared with the other properties as well. I didn't get a good shot of it. There was some standing water in the wetlands when I went to do the field report last week. Next slide. And then I just got a little closer. You can see some standing water in there, but it's not clear. Again, a lot of wetlands defining the rear, especially at this property. Next slide. Okay, so I've gone around the back deck and now 50 is to my right over that fence. And I'm looking back towards Hampton Lane, and that's the side of the house. So this area corresponds to where on the survey this new drainage system is proposed to exist. So between the facade of the house and I guess right up to the property line. I'm assuming that fence marks the property line. Next slide. And then I've just gone a little closer to Hampton Lane. Now I'm looking back at that area. You can just see the facade on the side of the house there. And on the left side of the photo, you see a little pergola and a gate, and there you have access from 46 into 50. And I think now I'm going to move just for a few more slides onto 50. Next slide. Okay, so now I went through that gate. Next slide. Okay, so now I've just gone through that gate, and now here I am on 50. This would be the part of 50 that will be right contiguous to that drainage system proposed to be installed. And that's the house on 50. While I was there, this is in 50, I was standing right there and the sump pump kicked in and started spewing a bunch of water. So it was, and you can see the standing water there. All of that was released just by coincidence while I was there. So I wasn't able to find the sump pump if there is one on the 46. No, I think that might be it. Is there one more? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have the applicant or the agent? There you go.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Martha Reichert. I'm a partner at the law firm of Toomey Latham Shea, Kelly Dubin and Quartararo, 33 West 2nd Street, Riverhead, New York, here for the applicant 46 Hampton LLC and William Russell. We submitted this application as part of a justice court proceeding in which we explained through our engineer, I have David Rhodes here tonight, who can also speak to the technical aspects of this project, that due to the high water table in this area and also the nature of the property, its elevations and its slopes, there is water that comes up and fills the crawl space. It's an unfinished crawl space, but also we have a wetland that's very close nearby. So when there's surface water runoff, there tends to be standing water on the property. And that is, of course, a health and safety hazard for the inhabitants of the residents, but also for the community as well. So as part of that justice court proceeding, we represented that we would file an application with the ZBA to install drainage structures that would alleviate the standing water problem and recharge the water over time. The structures will go on the northerly property adjacent to the dwelling, and there will be a series of pipes from the southerly dwelling recharging the water into these Cooltech chambers. And again, lengthening the amount of time that the water cycles back into groundwater. And again, I have David Rhodes, our engineer, who can speak to the technical aspects of the project. One of the things that I noticed in the TAM and what we plan to do is have a easement between the property, a cross easement, which enables those structures to exist in perpetuity. Although the ownership is checkerboarded, it is actually the Russell family that owns both properties. There are no plans for it to leave the Russell family ownership at any point in time in the near future, but we understand that in order to make this project work, we do need to, put belts and suspenders on it through an easement. And that would be something we would covenant to, or as a condition of the approval would do. My narrative and the photos contained in the application that I sent showed, again, what that standing water tends to look like in that neighborhood. The structures, the drainage structures where they're going is in an area that is already pretty much devoid of vegetation, so there isn't any clearing, and the vegetation that is there, again, in the photos in my narrative, are all invasive species, so it doesn't require the removal of any native vegetation. It's porcelain berry, bittersweet, your standard East End invasives that you tend to see. That's really all I have for the board.
One question, I'll turn it over, but I have a question on the covenant, if you will, or the easement. Who will be responsible for the maintenance of this structure over time in perpetuity? I mean, that's going to be a challenge, I think, probably in doing this.
Sure. Well, since the southerly lot is the lot that benefits, I think that they would be responsible for maintenance over time. I imagine you're contemplating a scenario where the two properties would not be owned by the same beneficial properties. And again, since it is for the benefit of the southerly property would have the obligation and responsibilities to maintain the structure. And that's how we would structure it in the easement.
Any other questions, board?
Yes.
Go for it.
May I ask, obviously it's referenced that this is related to a justice court ruling or settlement. I don't know which the right word is.
An ECOD, which is a discharge in or it's a,
So, but that whatever it was, it's not like in the record. So I just want to understand it a little bit more because I haven't seen this before in my, extensive 1 1/4 years on the board. But because, normally we think about drainage being taken care of by gutters and dry wells and things like that. So I'm not quite sure, given that this is, I do live in Beach Hampton, although almost the other side of it. So I'm aware of the standing water and the wetlands and, the rising groundwater. But can you just share a little bit more about that justice court, like who brought, you don't have to names, but like, how is that brought, what complaint? I just want, because these are co-owned properties. So.
Sure. I did not represent the client personally in the justice court proceedings, but my understanding was that, again, our engineer submitted a letter into the record to explain that this is all the result of site conditions, right? And the high groundwater. And so it was an ACOD, which is an adjournment in contemplation of dismissal, which generally means that if there are no further violations in a specific period of time, the charges are dismissed by the town. And so that's all I can personally tell you in terms of my knowledge of the Justice Court proceeding. This came to me in order to carry out that representation that was made to the town prosecutor that we would seek a creative solution to this issue in a way of recharging. Clearly, dry wells don't work when you have groundwater right there. So we had to engage an engineer who spent time designing the project. The first iteration of this project placed the Cooltech chambers closer to the rear of the northerly property, but then we had the wetlands flagged, and upon the wetlands flagging inspection, we discovered that the wetlands to the west did actually come onto the property. So in consultation with Chief Environmentalist Brian Frank, he suggested that we move the chambers as far away as possible from the wetlands. Now, of course, you might think, why not put it in the front yard? But that's where our sanitary system is. And, when you're taking on the whole all of the environmental impacts in the neighborhood, clearly this is an older residence, and the sanitary system is no longer a conforming system. So when the property owner is able to upgrade to an IA system, we need to have sufficient room for it. And again, because of the shallow depth to water, we're going to probably need a system that takes up more space. So in weighing all of the things on the property and preserving a place for a conforming and up-to-date modern sanitary system, the side yard became the best place to move it away from the wetlands, but also preserve the property owner's ability to upgrade his sanitary system. And I don't have to explain to this board the benefits to public health and the environment from that.
Because I won't belabor it, because I'll ask Tyler questions more about technically, but I'm just trying to understand, because standing water is sort of a natural condition now in the neighborhood on these roads. So I'm just trying to wrap my mind around, okay, so is I don't know, I'll go there, but it just, if it's a naturally occurring standing water, that's sort of part of the hydrology of the area. That's why I'm a little confused by the Justice Department.
Sure, well,
but you can, sorry.
Or maybe you could explain a little bit more what it is that you're confused about in terms of the Justice Court proceeding.
I mean, what I'm saying is,
there's a section of the town code that says that all properties have to keep their surface waters contained within their property lines.
correct. But if the groundwater is rising and there are wetlands on a property, there's a natural condition now that there's standing water.
Well, and that's why it resulted in ACOD, right? And that's why I have our engineer here, but that's also why he put in the letter into the court records stating that this was not necessarily, a bad faith act. This is just dealing with conditions on the ground, literally, right? And the water that's there. But it is also, while it's natural, it's also a product of the fact that over, the past several decades, we've seen the water table rise throughout the East End. And so, again, I have David Rhodes here who can provide you with technical information if you have questions.
Probably,
No, I'm done. I want to talk to.
We probably do have questions for David.
Yeah.
So.
Would you like him to come up?
Yes,
Just
please.
1 minute before you, go ahead. I'm sorry, you're
No,
interrupting. Go ahead.
well, I have one question on one of the EAF, and maybe it's David's answer also. 13, any portion of the site of proposed action or lands adjoining the proposed action contain wetlands? That answer was yes. And then the B part was, would the proposed action physically alter or encroach into any existing wetland or water body? And that answer is no. So this drainage will then keep all the water contained on the properties without getting into the wetland? Is that what it's correcting?
That's an interesting question. So in looking at do we have a survey that shows our contour lines?
You do have one somewhere.
Let's see. So I'm just going to step away from the mic for a second. These are our wetlands here. They're at elevation 6.
Right.
We've got a spot elevation 9 over here. And then 5. So the ground slopes down. So again, how these wetlands contain water could be that when there is excessive rain, right? it runs downhill over here. This property does not experience the same type of standing water because of its higher elevation. Whereas over here, we are 7, 5, 5 again. This is where you have the majority of the ponding on the property. Again, it's filling up the crawl space because of the high water table. So I would say that because we sit lower here, this is not going to deprive this wetland of its source of water because this is at a higher elevation.
Will water be pumped from the southern property to the drainage system?
So the water is going to, some pump will now have pipes that go into the cool
So the water will
The water will
accumulate in
eventually-
the crawl space and then be pumped from it into the drainage?
Correct, and it will recharge naturally, but the point of the Cooltech chambers is to slow that rate of recharge so that you don't end up again with the upwelling of water or the standing water.
But it is uphill from the southern property.
We'll have pumps.
So I think what you're saying is that really the problem, the biggest problem is in that crawl space under the southern property. Sounds like, because you're saying it's going
to the crawl space as well, but if you look at the photos that I submitted in the application, and it wasn't that I timed it on any particular day, it's just when I went out, and you can see that the northerly side yard and the rear yard are almost completely impassable because of the water, and you can look at the water from the photos and see enough tannic staining to know that it's been standing there for a while, right? It's not because it was just one major rain event, but it's standing there enough that you are.
So maybe, is it possible then, the reason for this going in is to contain the water that's on these two properties or related to these two properties from impacting neighborly properties? Is that possibly?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, listen,
Be the reason.
one of the things that you first learn when you start practicing in East Hampton is that code enforcement is complaint-based, right? So the presumption is that there was a neighbor that was impacted by the standing water, and that resulted in code enforcement investigating the issue and issuing the notice of violation and the justice court proceeding. So in doing all of this, right, one of the things that we look at is whether or not it'll have a negative impact or an adverse impact on the neighborhood. And here I submit that really these are below grade drainage systems. The benefit, while it is naturally will accrue to the southerly property, it will also benefit surrounding properties that have been affected by the standing water.
The standing water on the property didn't constitute a violation in itself, did it?
No, I mean, it's contained when it's there, but the code does, and the law also looks at whether or not you are moving water towards another property, right? And so the sump pump does extract water from the basement, but again, this is a solution to that issue to make it better for everyone.
Before David comes up, I'm sure we're going to ask him some questions. The question I have, we're not lawyers, of course, so we're talking about a system that's on the northern property that benefits the southern property, and you said eventually the covenant will insist that it's the responsibility of the owner of the southern parcel.
Sure, not just a covenant, but an actual easement.
Okay, an easement. So is that enforceable? I mean, let's say there's two future ownerships here. Somebody on the south is going to be maintaining something on another person's property?
Sure, well, oh, absolutely. I mean, that's what easements are. Easements are a right that one property owner gives to another person or
Even
property
like something
owner.
like this where there's a mechanical feature. I'm asking a legal question. We can refer to our own counsel.
Sure, you can refer to your counsel, but yes, whether it's the maintenance of driveways and driveway gates or other forms of structures. I mean, there are sanitary systems that are on other people's properties. In general, I will say that private easements and covenants are not usually enforced by a municipality. But again, if the town wants to reserve a right to enforce that easement in the event that, again, you have a future property owner that is I mean, it's really up for the board to discuss with their council if they want that particular right reserved to the town to have a right to enforce it. But we're amenable to any of those conditions that the ZBA may want to impose.
We have David up?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I asked her. from an engineer's report.
How are you, David? Do you swear, do you announce yourself first?
David Rhodes at TF Engineering.
Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So we were brought on this project because the client was experiencing some groundwater in the crawl space, which was causing some mold issues. And so he installed some sump pumps in there to mechanically remove the water out of the crawl space. And as everybody has alluded to, the water is now spitting out onto the surface and then draining off. After the issues were discovered and we were brought on to see what can we do to try to help with the surface water or with the surface water draining off. So a couple of things I'd like to point out is one, as we're doing projects out in this area, we're experiencing groundwater in about elevation 4.6. If you look down there in the northwest corner of the south lot, it's showing a groundwater of 4. I mean, a surface ground elevation of 4. So what we believe is happening is as the groundwater comes up in high groundwater conditions, that groundwater is causing surface water in the wetlands to develop. So that's what's causing the wetlands there. It's not water moving around, but the groundwater shifting upwards. So when we decided, what can we do about this surface water is we want to contain it on the site. We developed the storm drain plan with Coltech chambers, elevated them up in a retaining wall so that we could pump them up into the chambers, and then it would then go vertical until it hits the surface water and then spreads back out as it hits the surface water, flows laterally. So we're not really shifting the water off the property or anywhere else. It's just going up and going on the property and just cycling through. Eventually it's going to come back into the same basin, but then pumps back up again. It just delays the amount of time it's in the basement. Any questions on that or?
So the benefit, I think we heard the benefit is for the southern property line. So the design capacity was based on the crawl space of the southern property?
Correct. So what we did was we went to the site and we monitored it just like you saw when you were out there. And we observed that the pump was on for 40 seconds. We measured the amount of flow and essentially it was burping out about 10 gallons for every time. So we created a volume in the chambers of 101 gallons. So it would be burping out and it would store that up to 101 gallons and then slowly percolate back down till it hit the groundwater and then spread out.
And that's per chamber, so there's 5 chambers, right?
No, that's the total chambers is
100 gallons
100.
per total?
Yeah, storage volume is 900 gallons, sorry, yeah, 900 gallons. So there's a lot of volume there, and it's just to provide this temporary storage higher to then allow it to percolate back down.
It's above ground?
It's above ground. There's a retaining wall around it, yes.
How high above ground?
We got 1.3 feet. We got a top of wall 7.3. We got a bottom of wall 6.0. These are very shallow chambers.
Right.
It's the shallowest they have.
So basically, you're just taking water out of the southern properties crawl space, storing it and pumping it uphill, storing it where it more slowly seeps back down than just pumping it straight out.
Correct. Instead of pumping it onto surface water where it will drain off on to the wetlands or into a neighboring property, we're pumping it into these chambers up high and just letting it perk down. We initially looked at the property on the south and we said, well, can we do something on the southerly property? But we've got a septic system on the south side. We got propane tanks on the west side. We had no room on the north side. And then we had driveway and sidewalk on the east side. So if we try to put a wall on the road side, you basically blocked off your access into your house. So that was when we looked at the northern property. And as Martha said, we initially wanted to go in the northwest corner of the north lot because the elevation there was much higher, which would give us more of a delay coming back down again. But that was when they discovered that they went out and verified the wetland and realized that that was not the best location. So we then later settled for the spot in between the two buildings.
So the only water that's going to be feeding this drainage system is from the southern properties, crawl spaces, something.
Correct. That's
Not from drainage gutters, roof gutters.
no roof gutters. No, that just drains up to just drains right off the roof onto the surface as it always has.
And I'm sorry, what was the capacity again?
900 and, it was 909 gallons.
So what is, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, go ahead.
What is your experience with the Coltech system? Do you see these functioning well? Does it achieve what their expectations are in the planning here? The engineering, I'm not sure of the hydraulics and all of this and whether or not there becomes a situation of stasis. Maybe there's enough water that it saturates the whole thing. Do you think this dispersal, have you had experience with it before, the Coltech system?
Yeah, as a matter, I mean, we're obviously using Coltech chambers now or something similar for what they call pressurized shallow drain fields for septic systems.
Right.
And there's, if you talk to Marty Shea, he prefers to have the Coltech rather than concrete chambers. Whenever we go into him and we're working in an environmental situation and we're proposing, leaching our stormwater dry wells, he asks us to put in the chambers because they're shallower, they don't require as much height and as much cover. So he prefers those on the drainage side.
Well, we are dealing here with that 4.7 foot to groundwater, right? So we only have about 1.5 feet from natural grade to groundwater, basically where you've been finding it. So there's not a lot of capacity here for an exchange of fluid. I'm not challenging, I'm just saying, when you look at it from the outside, from an engineering point of view, okay, the water comes up, but still got to go somewhere. So it's going to come right back into the system. Is there a point where the system is just feeding itself? Or do you think the dispersal and the delay actually works in this case? Not for septics, I understand how it would work there. But
Yeah, so I mean, we're not creating or eliminating any water out of the system. The same water staying on the property, all we're doing is moving it around to try to keep it out of the basement, to keep that as dry as possible to prevent the growth of any type of mold. So it's not like we're generating water. We're not eliminating water. It's the same water. It's just being moved around up and then down and up and down.
Pumped up and gravity down.
Yeah.
And have you installed a similar system for similar application?
Particular in there's 500 lots in this area with standing water, so.
I can't say that this exact situation, but the principles are all the same, but I wouldn't say that I've done one exactly like this now.
Would a very heavy rainstorm stress this system?
No, because, the idea is, as water lands, it gets into the aquifer and the aquifer raises slowly over time. So it's not like you have a stream of water that's pumping into the basement that then has to be pumped out, right? The water lands, percolates down into the ground, and then as the groundwater comes up, then it will start to burp the water out into the Coltech.
And you could burp it out faster if needed?
And then, yeah, the higher it gets, the longer that the pump stays on.
Yeah.
And then hence you need the more capacity to store it temporarily.
What's the lifespan on this, do you know?
Lifespan, usually the pumps are 10 to 15 years. I mean, it's clean water. It's been filtered. It's not like it's septic water. It's clean water. So it's really just, pumping clean water through.
Well, I did note that when it burped, when I was in the middle of the burp, what came out was highly discolored water. It was sort of rusty and orange. So this would add some filtration to what's
Absolutely. I mean, because what's happened, what you're probably noticing is that water has, being exposed to mold pores and stuff inside the basement, and those then get into the water and pumped out. And those would then go into the chamber. And as the water goes down in the sand, those are going to be all filtered back out again.
And may I ask, I know it's a more complicated thing to do, but were there options considered, such as pilings on that house, right, to not have a closed area beneath? I mean, that would probably be, in some ways, a more intensive, right, project, but I don't know what other possibilities considered.
I can't answer that because that wasn't in my discussion. My discussion was strictly fixed. How can I deal with this issue, which this is the solution we came up with.
Okay, thank you.
So you have, it looks like 3 pumps. Is it 3
Correct.
pumps?
Yeah, there's 3 existing pumps down there.
There's three existing now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, those have been there. Yeah, all 3. And so they don't all burp at the same time. They'll go off,
Yeah.
Periodically.
And I assume there's periodic maintenance for the filtration and all that to clean it up?
Yeah, obviously they're going to have to maintain those. I mean, one benefit of having them come out to surface is they're working. The problem with, as soon as we put them below grade, he's not going to know if they're working or not. So he's going to definitely have to get down there for, if he wants to maintain the drier crawl space, he needs to maintain that. Otherwise, if a pump goes out, he's not going to know it, and it's just going to build up.
And could you remind, I'm sorry for peppering you, this is just very interesting because we haven't seen this before, I don't think, but the groundwater levels that you're referencing was, because obviously the groundwater actually fluctuates a lot in these areas here. So was it the highest potential estimated groundwater, or was it a particular seasonally high groundwater, or
So
sort of an average?
We've done a lot of septic design out in this area, and part of when we do a septic design, we have to do the highest expected groundwater. So the way we do that is we use what the test hole says the groundwater is, and we go out and we look at monitoring wells that done by Suffolk County, and we also look at other jobs that we've done in the area to determine, of all those sources, what is that highest level. 10 years ago when I started doing septic design out here, I was noticing an elevation of about 2.6. Within about 2 years, I went back to the same one. I designed at 2.6 and it was up to 4. So in 2 years, it had come up 2 feet in this area. And over time, it's increased another half a foot.
So the number you gave us are the highest expected groundwater levels.
Yeah, and so that's whenever we do a septic design out here, 4.6 is the highest expected groundwater elevation that we anticipate in this area.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
Wait for Tyler.
Thank you. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Tyler?
Good evening, Tyler Borsak for the Planning Department.
Tyler, do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. So I'll just go over the application briefly since you've gotten a lot of what I was going to say anyways. The application obviously consists solely of the installation of subsurface stormwater chambers along the southern property boundary of 46 Hampton Lane. And the only structure that'll be on 50 Hampton Lane is the piping that then leads into those chambers on 46. The freshwater wetlands most proximate to the properties are located along the western lot line of 46 Hampton Lane. Test hole data provided with the application depicts groundwater at an elevation of 4.3 feet. Average grade elevation of the properties is estimated to be about 6 feet. So the small lot size and elevations within 2 feet of groundwater table make this area prone to seasonal flooding, especially in late winter and early spring when precipitation rates are generally high and evapotranspiration rates are generally low. During the pre-application process with consultations with the planning department, the location of the proposed drainage structure was identified as the location best to maximize wetland setbacks without encroaching on the sanitary system for either lot. The drainage structures are probably the best type suited for the constraints of the property since they are low profile and therefore require minimal surface grading. We did note in the assessment that the board should consider long-term maintenance of these structures, which has already been addressed and seems to be moving in the right direction at the very least. But that was the only real note that we made in the assessment, so I can make myself available for any questions.
Any questions for Tyler?
May I? Thank you. Tyler, you write a lot of TAMs. Excuse me, everyone. So sorry. I've been under the weather. And you talk a lot about, the wetlands and the hydrology of wetlands and wetland systems. So will this system or anything like this have actual impact on hydrology of groundwater and wetlands? Because I know you talk about.
Yeah, I don't think it would have any significant impact, especially when considering the wetlands. I mean, moving it as far, when originally proposed, it was right along the edge of those wetlands. That would certainly have an impact on.
It's still close though, right? I mean,
it is close. There's not really any other options. And the alternative prior to this was pumping it onto the surface, which is definitely what we don't want. That just creates additional runoff, which can impact wetlands, which is the opposite of what we want to see. So by containing it subsurface, we eliminate issues with runoff. So I'd say it's a net benefit by getting it below grade. What sort of impacts it might have on water movement in the area, I can't really speak to that.
Any other questions?
No.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you.
thank you.
Anybody in the public that would like to address Andy, come on up. How are you, Andy?
Good evening, Chairman Deline, members of the board. I'm going to try and keep this quick. This is a 20-minute hearing already for it. I'm here tonight. I don't consider my comments in opposition, and I think you guys have done an excellent job of answering a lot of the questions. I'm here tonight representing the Myers family. That's Amy Myers is here with me tonight. The Myers family own the property directly behind 50, and it's a larger property that fronts on Gardner's.
What's the parcel? What's the address?
The address? 57 Maidstone. So Maidstone is the property. So these are back-to-back properties, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've gone through, and maybe to death, the entire neighborhood has similar constraints. Houses are low elevations, don't comply with FEMA. As you mentioned, putting this thing on piles, that would actually address it. However, this is in a FEMA AE 10 zone. That would require the first floor elevation to be at 12. If you look at their surveys, they're at 7.5 and 8 foot. So it's a 4 to 4.5 foot lift on the property. It would be a dramatic change to the properties, would probably be triggered at some point if you did a substantial improvement under our town code. FEMA basically wants these things to be rendered FEMA compliant, but that's a long way down and probably a huge project. The groundwater elevation at 4.3 and the site plans, there are a lot of depressions that are shown below that. So yeah, obviously you're going to have standing groundwater. One thing I don't think you can discount is the introduction of public water into this area. You're taking thousands, if not millions of gallons of water from on the other side of the terminal moraine, the well fields in Amagansett, bringing it down and discharging it in this area when you shower, flush your toilet, use your sink. That extra water is being discharged into the groundwater. So I think that's also adding to the seasonal high fluctuation in groundwater. One thing that I can absolutely answer is this wasn't a neighborly situation at first. The reason this originated in justice court is this applicant was discharging this water in huge volumes onto the neighboring properties through hoses that were at one time hidden from public view, town view. They were covered in mulch, just basically trying to get rid of the water. He was pumping it directly onto his neighbors' properties. We're optimistic this proposed drainage system will at the very least provide an end to this activity. And when you were there, you saw it kick on. That's a significant amount of water. But I do have some concerns, and I'm thankful Mr. Rhodes, who I know is very competent and a great engineer, can address. And in fact, I'm thankful that we have Martha here as well. They basically have a good team here and with a lot of history. So I think a lot of the questions you've asked are the things that I would ask. I think if you actually understand this process, what you're doing here is a Sisyphean task. You're basically lifting the pebble up to the top of the hill. It's going to roll down, and then you're going to lift it up and move it again. And you're gaining some measurable improvement based on the time lag between the pumping and the reintroduction into the groundwater based on the storage capacity of the Coltech drainage system. One of the questions I had, and you can see it on the plans, is that it has a 900-gallon overall storage capacity. Is that actually sufficient to accommodate the amount of water that's being pumped out? I think when you saw it, there was, I don't know if that was one pump, but there are 3 of these pumps. My concern is that if this system is overwhelmed, and it could happen, it will result in the continuation of surface water flows that will continue to impact surrounding properties, particularly the Myers property, either from the failure of the drainage structure or horizontal discharge of this thing as it gets overwhelmed. I want to make sure that there's some way to ensure that this project will remain viable and continue to provide its intended benefits to the neighborhood and to this owner. One thing that was addressed is the serviceable. We want that to be part of the zoning board's approval. If you issue one, it says, hey, you have to keep these things operational, because this doesn't just benefit the property to the south, it benefits the neighborhood overall. And the lifespan of the system, if it does fail, we would want it to be replaced. I think a sufficient solution is better than no solution. I don't think it's realistic to assume that the neighborhood are going to be constructed on piles anytime soon. 2 small requests that I would make to the board, should you approve this project, I would want the applicant to apply for and obtain a certificate of occupancy as part of that. Basically, small changes to these properties can have impacts to this issue. Basically, we have a groundwater issue. I want to make sure that whatever is legally on these properties is what is approved by the town at the end of the construction project. The other thing is I would like the board to reiterate in its decision the condition of the town code that says that surface water must remain on your property. That's kind of what started this process to begin with, but I think that would give a second set of teeth to that provision. Rather than it being a town code violation, it could also violate the conditions of the certificate of occupancy issued on this property. And the applicant, if this happened again where the repeated pumping kept coming in, they would at least also be able to attack the certificate of occupancy through the building inspector as well. Other than that, if you have any questions, I doubt you have any.
We have to remind you that this is a public comment. Yeah, right.
That is true.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Thank you. Is there anybody in the public else like to, Matt, anybody online?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one last question. So,
We
go
have
ahead.
one more question.
Yeah,
Margaret?
For Martha,
Terry?
I guess.
Yeah, me
Well,
too.
I just wanted to confirm something.
Come on up.
Mark. I just want to
Yeah, please.
bring up the shed. That's all. All right. I just want to confirm with you, you stated in your documentation that the shed that's in that corner there will be removed.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. It came out as part of the review process that shed was supposed to have been removed by a prior owner. It didn't get removed, but we decided that rather than seek a variance for it, we would remove it as part of this application. So I have no objection to Mr. Hammer's recommendation that we obtain a new C of O, because we're going to be removing a structure. Even if this doesn't technically require a building permit, we would want an updated CO to reflect that we've corrected that issue.
May I make a request to have the justice courts, I don't know if there was a written decision and the complaint
I don't
put
believe,
into the record?
I don't believe there is, but it's a town
Tyler,
record.
could you check that to see if there's something written, and if it is, could it be in the record?
I have no idea.
I'm not really sure of the relevance for the NRSP standards, but, we could FOIL for it.
Next number, I mean, that's.
Yeah. Yes, we can provide the index number if you would
But
like that.
that means that we are going to keep the record open tonight.
You could condition that as.
You could close it and we could,
Get the index number right now, we could.
I mean, I ask because it's been referenced a lot, and it's it is talked about as the reason for this. So I just wanted to see it, if possible, in the record.
Sure. I mean, I
I
don't
don't
know
wanna
if there's
cause
going
it-
to be much there, just because ACODs tend to be pretty thin files, but we can certainly get you the index number and the letter that was submitted to, I believe it was David McMasters was the town prosecutor at the time.
Right, because there must have been a letter from a neighbor that triggered the,
Well, I don't know if there's anything from the neighbor.
That information, I would say you can close the record with 10 days to provide that information, and I think if you like to close, you can do that.
It's, just want to clarify that I'm not sure if I see the importance of that request because it culminated in a finality, a judge's final decision and order. And I think that I'm not seeing the importance of that request. So
That's fine. I mean, I don't think you're making a resolution tonight, or are you going to grant the?
Okay.
I think this is on the record as a request. If the applicant
Okay.
chooses to provide it, that's fine. If it's not, it has been asked for, it's a question.
I'm happy to provide it, but again, I don't really see the relevance because it was something that was adjudicated and there have been no subsequent NOVs or matters brought in justice court pertaining to this matter.
Oh.
And that was nearly 3 years ago.
no one else cares for it. I'm not going to make a big deal about it.
Anybody else?
No, I have nothing.
Okay,
I have nothing.
Thank you.
okay,
Thank you.
so should I make a motion? We're ready? Yep, okay, thank you, thank you. In the matter of 46 Hampton Lane LLC and William T. Russell, 46 and 50 Hampton Lane, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-174-7-13, 14. I make a motion to close the hearing and close the record.
Second.
Concur. Concur.
Concur. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next we have George and Anastasia Gavalas at 43 Marine Boulevard in Amagansett, Suffolk, tax map number 300-179-1-9. The size and location is 28,874 square feet at 43 Marine Boulevard, Seaview at Amagansett, lot number 35, map number 4987 in Amagansett. And the description is to construct 849 square feet of first and second story additions, a 535 square foot attached garage, mechanical room, approximately 610 square feet, second story deck, a driveway expansion with retaining wall, upgraded sanitary system, and to clear approximately 9,302 square feet of beach vegetation on a parcel of land containing dune land, beach vegetation, dunes, beaches, and tidal wetlands. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the East Hampton Town, and 3 variances are required for this application. Variances of approximately 47 feet, 33.6 feet, 32 feet from 255-440 of the Town Code are required in order to construct a proposed house additions approximately 53 feet, garage with mechanical room 66.4 feet, and decking 68 feet from the dune crest where 100-foot setbacks are required, and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is B residence, VE velocities flood zone, and there's no elevation on that, but secret class is type 2. Council, do we have proper affidavit in service and
Yes, we
posting?
do. Yes.
Okay, I think this application is going to be adjourned until next Tuesday. What's the date for next Tuesday? 29th, April 29th. There was a request for recusal on this application that is before the Ethics Board, and we are waiting a decision on that. So we are going to adjourn this hearing for 1 week.
If the applicant's concurrence would be perfect.
Yes, Liz Vale, Greenberg Traurig, 2317 Montauk Highway Bridge, Hampton, for the applicant. Thank you, board members. We're consenting to a 1-week adjournment to April 29th.
Thank
We
you.
will present to the board. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we move on to our work session. We have an administrative application, Whitman, and the applicant is Whitman at 14 Taft Drive, Montauk, Suffolk, tax map number 300-67-4-10, and that's to construct a smaller deck in place of an existing larger deck and a property within the jurisdiction of freshwater wetlands.
Yeah, so this is a pretty straightforward application. It's like place in like kind or like place in kind. If you can see on the board, I don't know if you can see it very well, I can zoom in a little bit. Wetlands are to the northeast here. The gray line is the existing decking, so they're actually making it smaller. They're reducing it down. No closer to wetlands, it's gonna be further away. It's within the footprint of that existing deck. So it would be as if they're replacing it at as is, but it's actually gonna be a little bit further away than wetlands than it is right now. So really straightforward replacement of a deck, but they're reducing it down.
So I'm sorry, the proposed deck is outlined in green.
The green, yes.
And where's the?
The existing is this gray line here.
All the way around there?
Yeah, so it's significantly larger
Oh, I
right now
see.
than
Okay.
what they want to make it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't seem to have a problem.
Seems okay to me, yeah,
Go with that?
okay. So you want?
Motion?
Sure. I'll make a motion for Whitman at 14 Taft Drive in Montauk, tax map 300-67-4-10, to allow this application to process administratively.
Second it?
Concur.
Concur. Okay, on our other decisions, we have Devon Yacht Club, and I think member Mary.
So yes, I was just about to say, I am recused on this one, so I'm gonna step out.
And Lisa LaCory, you can hear us, right?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes,
Perfect.
and we have Lisa LaCory from the Planning Department joining us on Zoom. Hi, Lisa, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
Good.
Okay, I just wanted to give a little bit of review of this application as it is somewhat unique, and how you got to this point and what has been asked of you. So going back in some time, the planning board reviewed the site plan special permit application at several work sessions. The application was not deemed complete and no secra decision was made on it. But as the entire project required natural resource special permit and 20 variances, the planning board wanted to obtain feedback from the zoning board of appeals before going forward with the application. And they really wanted to get your feedback on the concept and scope of what was being proposed. So the process undertaken by your board and the materials that you reviewed are all indicated in that April 22nd draft memo that that you've had an opportunity to review. And again, just to reiterate, the planning board asked you to provide written initial comments on the project and an indication as to whether the project would be likely to obtain the NRSP and the variances, noting that these comments would be non-binding. The application will, once it is deemed complete, once secra has been completed, it will come back before your board for an official hearing and for your decisions. So I don't really think I need to go through the memo, as you've all had an opportunity to go through it, but I'm here and available to answer any questions you might have on it.
Okay, I have, board members, have we had a chance to review the letter?
Yeah,
Do we have any comments?
yeah, I think it's very generous to the applicant.
I think, well, okay, does it reflect the decision of the zoning board at the time?
I guess for the majority, yes.
It addressed my concerns.
Okay. Do we have any questions for Lisa?
Not on the
No.
basis of what we're being asked to do, make a recommendation, and we did that, and I
I'm
can stand
fine
by it.
with sending it to the planning board.
Okay, so can we have a, that would be me. Do I, tax map number? I gotta look up a tax map number.
I can help you with that.
There it is, it's on there. I'm sorry. I got it. We have it. We have it,
Okay.
Lisa.
I don't want to muddy the works. Tina Lagaran from the planning department, just really quick. Terry, if you have things that you want to see that you think are too generous or you think are inaccurate, you should tell us now so we can get them in the record. Because you saying it's too generous, it's hard for me to reflect
Well,
that in the
I'm not going to make
report.
my final decision until I see the
Right,
things that I
so-
have concerns about.
Okay,
So
do
I'm
you
not
think-
saying yay or nay at this
No,
point.
and that's fine, and we're not asking, and Lisa kicked it off, we're not asking for an official decision. It is an indication of whether or not you think it's approvable eventually, and it's still in flux, right? They're still making changes, but I just wanted to make sure we're clear. If there was something we could fix,
I'll let you know. No, I think you've gone as far as you can go at this point.
Thank you. All right, therefore I make a motion in the application of Devon Yacht Club, 300 Abraham's Landing Road in Amagansett, Suffolk, tax map number 300-127-3-16 and 17, to approve the letter of what do we call a recommendation? No, it's not a recommendation, it's sending the letter as written to the planning board. Reviews, yeah.
I'll second it.
Concur.
Hold on.
Denise Savarese isn't here this evening, but she had emailed the board with some comments. Can we attach those to the report to the planning board, just so, since she was not able to be here tonight?
I think they're a matter of public record.
Yeah,
already.
so I just want to make sure that the
They
planning
are in
board
the
gets them.
public record. I
Right,
think we
okay.
clarified that earlier. I just want
Okay.
the board to know that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
We still at the
Second,
point
do we
where I
have a
second
second?
it? Yeah.
Okay,
Concur.
concur.
I'm okay to send the letter.
Okay. That means you concur?
To sending the letter.
Yes, that sounds good.
Thank you.
Next.
Okay, next we have 3 Association Road LLC at 3 Association Road, Wayne-Scott, Suffolk, tax map number 300-200-3-9.1, and that's a request to reopen the record. And board members, if you remember, this is the application where we had the neighbor submit a response or their report to us. We opened the record. This is a request to reopen the record and the applicant to accept the applicant's letter in response to that submittal. And then if we decide to reopen the record and close it, that record will be given to us.
Okay.
Did they send we didn't get the response from them yet in response to the neighbors?
No, we can't, because we can't accept it into the record until until we make that motion. So if it's okay with the board, we make that request. I make a request at 3 Association Road LLC, 3 Association Road, Wayne-Scott, Suffolk, tax map number 300-200-3-9.1, to reopen the record.
I'll second it.
To accept
Oh,
the response from the applicant.
sorry, I second it.
I concur.
I concur.
Okay, thank you. Then I make a motion in 3 Association Road LLC, 3 Association Road, Wayne-Scott, Suffolk, tax map number 300-200-3-9.1, to close the record.
Second.
I concur.
Concur.
Concur. So
Thank
when are
you.
we getting the record?
I'm sure Sam will send it to us.
You have it hidden on your side? Okay.
This is an interesting question on this. Once we reopen and close the record again, when does the 62-day clock start?
Today?
Technically, it's from the close of the meeting. That's the
Yeah.
62-day clock.
Today.
I mean, but technically, this.
It's just an
there's no
inquisitive.
default. It's a objective to reach, right? You'd like.
Yeah. I'm
But
sure
it
it'll
would
be
be
put
from
on our.
today. It would be from
I'm
today.
sure it'll be put on our agenda prior to that, but.
Right, for decision, post-hearing decision.
Right, but it's after
Yeah,
the close.
but we have
Yeah.
62 days.
Thank you. We have then the draft minutes of Tuesday, April 8th.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the draft minutes of Tuesday, April 8th, 2025 for the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals.
I'll second it.
Concur.
Concur.
Concur, thank you. With that, make a motion to close the meeting of the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals for April 22nd, 2025.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Thank you.